Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
You may have heard on the news about a Southern California man who was put under 72-hour psychiatric observation when it was found that he owned 100 guns and allegedly had 100,000 rounds of ammunition. By Southern California standards, someone owning 100,000 rounds is considered mentally unstable. In Arizona, he'd be called an avid gun collector. In Arkansas, he'd be called a novice gun collector. In Kansas, he'd be a guy down the road you'd want to have as a friend. In Alabama, he'd be called a likely gubernatorial candidate. And in Texas, he'd just be Bubba, who's a little short on ammunition. Morning, everybody. Zeb at the ranch. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Looks like a nice day today. Good morning, good morning. Oh, thank you very much, and good morning on a Monday morning, and we say a very, very good morning and good week to our cohort in crime, the engineer, quarterback of the team. Gina, good morning. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you? Happy Monday.
It is a happy Monday, and the weather forecast, we're going to hear from Michael in just a little bit, but I'll give you a sneak preview. It's going to be NICE.
NILOVEIT.
Yes, I do too. By the way, now that we've got all the warm fuzzies out of the way, do we have an old curmudgeon called Al on the phone?
We do, and of course we have Michael Rogers on for the weather.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Curmudgeon. How are you?
Good morning, you young puppy.
Bow wow. Hey, give us the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As always, Al, I don't have to tell you, you know this. You do an excellent job. God bless you and Polly, and have a great day.
Ever?
Yes, sir.
Jeff, did you get any mail or letter from Bonnier recently?
No, I did not.
Well, when you get it, I hope you guys do the same as I do. I got it, and I read it, and I'm so damn disgusted with him and what's going on. I said, I cannot afford any of your donations this time when you do your damn jobs and impeach that whole crew back there. I said, then talk to me at a later date.
I couldn't agree more. Al, thank you. I'll look for it. Probably come in today's mail, and I appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Okay, have a
All right. God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're going, wherever you've been, make sure that everything you put in your truck bed arrives with you. I don't care what you're protecting, tools, groceries, saddles, all your tack, everything. It's worth naturally to have a shell from Save On Shells. 1835 Overland and Burley with Anthony and the crew. 312-1525 Save On Shells. I'll tell you more about those in just a minute, but right now, here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Good morning. Going to be a great-looking day today. It's going to be an even better one tomorrow. So let's start with today. Lots of sun, 66 for the high, winds and problem, clear tonight. Overnight low is going to be comfortable, and then tomorrow, oh my goodness, how about sunny, high 76? They're looking to break a record springtime in the Magic Valley of South Central Idaho. That's all you need to know. That is it for your weather for today. Enjoy it. It is the only weather you've got.
Thank you very much to the best weatherman anywhere, anytime. MichaelRogersWeather.com, brought to you by Save-On Shells. They've got the new ARE shells there. Many, many different models for your pick-em-up trucks and a fantastic selection of used shells. And the thing about Anthony and the group over there at Save-On Shells, the service is excellent. Installation, parts, everything. I know because I bought a shell from Save-On Shells. They are the best. 1835 Overland in Burley. Number to call, 312-1525, Save-On Shells. Oh, man, I'll tell you what, I don't know what I'd do without my camper shell. You know, you want to protect things. It's a shame that you have to think about theft, and you have to, of course, also watch the weather, and those Save-On Shells actually, absolutely are the best you can get. Don't forget, too, that later on this morning, we're going to have Speaker of the House Scott Bedke on our program at 10:06. He just called over to verify that he is going to be calling in among our other guests this morning. So stay tuned for that. And by the way, too, don't forget our friends at SafeLink Internet, Idaho's #1 choice for high-speed internet. We have been with them for, I don't know, it's 5-6 years now. And I don't know, honestly, what we'd do without them, because their service is impeccable, really nice people, and believe me, they've got a customer referral program right now where you could basically get free internet for life with your referrals to other customers. And all you have to do is call and talk to them about it at 677-8000. SafeLink Internet, absolutely the best. You call them today. And you know, with the word best, that also leads me up to mention our friends at Daryl's Cleaners, Kevin, Cindy, the whole crew, and I've got a whole bag of Rumply Crumplies that have to get on over to Daryl's Cleaners. I'm going to try to stop in there today, as a matter of fact, at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, and you stop in anytime you want. You're right there. You stop in and see them. They'll take care of all your clothes and your drapes and your tablecloths, everything and anything that needs cleaning. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Simply the best. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to spend the bulk of this hour this morning, and I want you to be thinking about this. I want you to be thinking about this and call in. What happened to your freedoms? What happened to the America that we were born and raised in? We're going to talk about that, and I'm going to get a couple of things out of the way real quick. Tonight, of course, the championship game, and I know, you're all snickering at me because I had predicted that Wisconsin and Florida would be in the championship game. No, they're not going to be in the championship game. It's going to be UConn and Kentucky, and that is still going to be an excellent, excellent basketball game to watch. Pardon me? What are you giggling about, lady?
I called it. That's who I called. Steak dinner. Thank you. Steak dinner.
I know it. Okay. But you know what? My Wisconsin Badgers came within an inch off the rim of winning that game in the last second shot.
Isn't it like when that happens, you're like biting your nails and you're just like screaming and yelling at the TV and everything?
No, I was sitting on the edge of the bed, and that last shot went up, and I'm going, and honestly,
I've watched things like that.
And Florida just absolutely was blowing out UConn. I mean, if you watch that game, the first 10 minutes, why, I said to Deanne, I said, this is Custer's last stand. And then all of a sudden it turned around, and I thought, holy buckets. And UConn won, Kentucky won, and I've got egg on my face this morning because they're not the picks I thought.
No, I didn't. Honestly, I didn't think that they would win, and the only reason I went with UConn and Kentucky is because, well, you didn't.
I know, yeah. And this is what irritates me the most, is you did it just to spite me, and you ended up being right. And now I'm sitting here going, oh, my gosh, I'm never going to hear the end of this. The next thing you know, you're going to predict the University of Idaho is going to win their conference next year in football, and I'll probably lose that one, too.
Oh, gosh, that would be a dream, but I doubt it.
Yeah, but Larry Hudig would be there cheering for you. I can just see him waving his pom-poms. Okay.
Hey, Larry, if you need a pom-pom, I got one for you.
You know, come to think of it, though, honestly, in all reality, thinking about Larry Hudig waving pom-poms, possibly in a cheerleader outfit, this is a sight in my mind that I don't even want to go there.
You better be wearing some good-looking tights. We've got Al on the phone.
I'll bet we do, but I got to pay some bills real quick. Stand by. Denny's Restaurant. Oh, my goodness. We love Denny's Restaurant. I'll guarantee you at 611 North Overland in Burley. And whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you're going to love the meal. You're going to love the service. The people absolutely take care of you. And, of course, it's the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Don't forget, they've got a menu that is family-friendly. You're going to love it. The kids are going to love it. Everybody loves going to Denny's Restaurant. And Thomas and the rest of the crew, they just bend over backwards to make sure that your dining experience is extremely pleasant. Denny's Restaurant in Burley, 611 Overland. You stop in and see them today. Good morning again, Al.
Yeah, good morning. Hey, if you want to pick them, have Polly do it.
Oh, really?
That little smart aleck picked every one of them.
Did she honestly pick Yukon and Kentucky?
Yeah.
Oh. All right, Polly, I'll call you after the program, and we'll sit down and we'll get all your picks. I'm not doing any more on my own. I never had Yukon and Kentucky in the Final 8, not even the Sweet 16.
Well, have a good one.
All right, Al, thanks. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
You know, you wanted to know how this country deteriorated and everything.
Yes, sir.
Let me give you an analogy of it.
Okay.
The old saying of cooking a frog. You put a live frog in a warm, nice, comfortable, warm bowl of water. And you just keep turning the heat up.
Yep.
And he's still comfortable and lays back and, you know, does a backstroke and a few things like that. And everything is okay. Then he gets a little bit uncomfortable and he doesn't know what to do, but he doesn't try to get out.
Trapped.
And he perishes.
Yep. And that's where we're at right now. You know, Keith, what I'm going to do this morning, just to bring you up to speed, is I'm going to go through quite a bit of the freedoms and the regulations and the absolute government harassment that we're going through, and listen to what I've got to say and call me back. I'm absolutely, here's what I'm doing, Keith, and you might be offended by this. I don't know. I'm advocating that we break the rules. I'm advocating that we go against the regulations. I'm advocating that we do not abide and adhere to government regulations. They're taking away our freedoms, and it's not what America was and what it was intended to be. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm really being a rebellious soul this morning because I'm telling people to break the rules and break the regulations because this administration is leading us down the path to complete communism and socialistic values.
The one last thing I want to say, the most thing that has destroyed America, as far as I'm concerned, especially in business, is the EPA.
And I'm going to talk about that. You are spot on. Keith, as always, I appreciate your call. Thank you very much. We're going to get into that in just a minute, and I really want your input on this because I'm absolutely advocating a break the rules and go against government regulations. I don't care what they say. I don't care what they adhere that we must follow. I say break the rules. It's time that America stood up and said enough is enough, just like our forefathers did 250 years ago. Valley-wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. They've got all the Cornish chicks. Those are the meat birds, good birds. And they've got everything you need to raise those. Feed, water dishes, houses, fencing, anything. And you know they've got clothing over there for spring. You know, here it is, spring, and they've got a great amount of fancy, good-looking, hard-wearing boots in their boot department. Mandy's really got some good boots over there, and all the 4-H needs, too. I mean, it's all there at Valley-wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. You stop in and see Steve and the crew today at Valley-wide Home and Ranch, serving you. Hey, by the way, serving you for a long time, my goodness, almost 60 years, and that's Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. I burned out a light bulb this morning. I burned out an incandescent light bulb, but you know what? I've got a box full of them from Ramsey Heating and Electric, and we just went and got another one. I don't want all those curly-cued, stare-in-the-dark light bulbs. The government said, oh, no, another regulation. We can't have incandescent light bulbs. So I went down to Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they bought a bunch of them, and they're selling them to you, 40, 60, 75, or 100 watt. Get your light bulbs and thumb your nose in the light at the government and get the light bulbs that really do work good. At Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, waiting to serve you with warm winters and cool summers. All right, calls are welcome. Here's the deal, folks. You can't eat what you want anymore. No. And just this weekend, we heard something that I had predicted, and if you listen to this program, you know I'm telling you the truth, because they're going to start putting checkers, people watching you in grocery stores as to what you are buying, checking out the obesity rates, checking out what you're putting in your grocery baskets. It's coming. More government control. And you can't eat what you want anymore. You can't use salt like you want to. You know what? I use salt. And I'm very healthy. I've got a great heart, thank the good Lord for that. The only problems I've got is I got a blood clot in my knee from surgery, and it's something that happens. I'm going to take care of it. But I'll tell you one thing, I like salt. If I want to go to a restaurant, I'll use salt. If they've got spaghetti, I'll put a little salt on the spaghetti. If I'm having prime rib, I'm going to put a little salt on my prime rib. I'll use what I want. And in New York, some of the restaurants are being coerced into not even having salt on the table. So in that case, if that's the position that the restaurant takes, I will carry my own salt shaker with me. But I will not be told by the government that I can't use salt. They're trying to tell us what groceries we can buy and what groceries we can't. They're going to start limiting certain things and telling you that you can't have that, you can't grow a certain crop. People like Kellogg's. People like Kellogg's cereal are really, really concerned right now, their breakfast cereals, etc., because of the government intrusion into free enterprise. Here's another thing. If you want to make a little fish pond on your property, go do it. You know, these EPA knotheads, and I had to really watch my verbiage there because I want to call them what they really are, trying to say, well, you're creating a wetlands, and we're in complete control. No, on my property, you are not in control. If I want to make a little fish pond, if I want to make a little funny, fancy deal out here by our rocks and our flower beds, you stay the heck off my property. I will make what I want. It is not a wetlands, it's mine. And if I want to build a little campfire or a little barbecue pit out at the end of my arena and have my friends over, and maybe later in the evening after we're done enjoying roping, we might go ahead and build a little fire, sit around and enjoy an adult beverage and tell tall tales. But I'm not about to have the government say, well, you can't have that. You can't build a campfire. You can't have a barbecue pit. Yes, I will. And I want to talk about gardens in just a moment. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, the other day when you had Nathan Jerky on from the Department of Transportation, and he said that the canal companies wouldn't allow him in there at certain dates. I didn't quite hear the dates, but I have a friend who is a water master, or a few friends who are water masters around the valley that are canal companies, and one of them, I spoke to him on right after that and asked him about this environmental and the wetlands and all this, and he told me. He says there was a time when a water master spent most of his time delivering the water to the customers who pay for the water, as you would think it should be. He says now, 60% of my time is spent dealing with environmental extremism.
Yeah.
And this EPA water thing and wetlands and navigable waters and he says it's just in my life every day.
Randy.
And he says, I asked him if it was getting any better, and he says no, it's not. And I says, well, how are we going to stop it? And as usually when you ask people this question, they really don't know other than the people waking up or us electing a leader who would, lead the people, gather the folks, and then fight back against this insanity.
Randy, in your business, and I don't want you to go in depth here because I don't have time. I've got a commercial break coming up.
No.
But in your business of construction, you've seen this. You've witnessed this control and regulations, what you can do, what you can't do. They've eliminated your freedoms. They've eliminated your process of free choice. Haven't you seen this happen in your daily routine?
I'll tell you, let me explain to you quick, and then I know you got to go. It's easier to go to a business like, for instance, a canal company or a fertilizer company or a chemical company, and it's easier to apply the heat to them than to go out and individually pick on each farmer. But this is exactly the point, though. It's just like with this ag-gag bill. They're just trying to stick their fingers into our lives, no matter what, and then you've got useful idiots. People are out here doing the bidding of these controlling folks, whether or not it seems they get paid or not, who knows.
That's why I'm telling you this.
So many people willing to perpetuate the destruction of free market capitalism, and that is literally what keeps us alive.
That's right. And the thing is, that's why I'm saying this morning, and I know I'm going to take heat over this, but I stand behind it. It is time to stand up, break the rules, go against the regulations, and thumb your nose at the government, the EPA, whomever, because I've got a litany of other things on my list here that I want to talk about gardens and everything else. Randy, we are America. We are not Russia. We are not Venezuela. We are not China. And I am sick and tired of government coming into my life and being a very intrusion force trying to tell me what I can and can't do, and I've had it. I'm going to preach that we should absolutely stop with the regulations and do things the way America used to be.
Well, in the Founding Fathers said that civil disobedience was a right of a God-given right of the American people when they felt that things were getting in a place where they shouldn't be, and that's exactly where we are.
Absolutely. Randy, thank you very much, and it's true. I'm going to get into gardens in just a moment, and we'll talk about that. Don't forget Penetron Soil Conditioner by Maisie has a 20-year proven record of increasing yield and quality of all Idaho crops with 30 interactive components, speeding germination, reducing crusting, improving stand, stimulating root growth and microbial activity. And don't forget, too, that the use of Penetron Soil Conditioner by Maisie also saves irrigation water. The saving of the water alone will pay for the cost of the product. Absolutely. Larger crop yields, better quality with Penetron by Maisie. Please contact your fertilizer dealer and your crop advisor today about Penetron by Maisie. Well, real quick, I also want to tell you about our dear friend Jim McCall at Travel Lube Supply. My goodness sakes, we had him on the air last week. He is busy, and he's still got a whole bunch of those filters, and you can save a bundle of money on those filters. And don't forget, he's got all your tools right now. I know you're busy. He's got everything you need at Travel Lube Supply, 438-8730. All you have to do, honestly, it's simple, is just give them a call, and they can serve you. And Travel Lube Supply, of course, with all your bolts. They've got the metric and standard bolts, and they got the bolt bins, and they'll put you on the route service and keep you filled. Travel Lube Supply, 1050 West, 203 South of Hayburn, 438-8730. It is time for the Capital Press Ag Minute, and it is brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, or a heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Here's the Capital Press Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
Idaho is poised to further distance itself from North Dakota, Montana, and Washington this season as the nation's top barley-producing state. Though Montana growers will plant far more acres and North Dakota will plant a comparable barley crop, industry leaders say it's a safe bet that Idaho will again emerge as the barley production leader. thanks to its strong yields under irrigation. Gem State growers told USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service they intend to plant 660,000 acres of barley this spring, up by 30,000 acres from last season. Growers in Washington, the number 3 barley-producing state, are expected to plant 130,000 barley acres, down 65,000 acres from last season.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West's Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
All right, thank you very much. Brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I really thought long and hard about this weekend, talking about breaking the rules, breaking the regulations, and going against what the government is trying to impose on us. And like growing a garden. Now, you know that there has been a lot of talk lately about how the government wants to regulate what you grow, what you do with the commodities that you grow. Maybe if you want to give some to Grandma. Maybe you want to take some over to Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred. Maybe you want to provide them for your neighbors. They want to have regulations so that you can't do that type of thing. They want to probably have regulations that are going to try to stop farmers markets. This is just another one of the rules and regulations that we need to overcome and step on with the heel of our boots. It's like having ice cream socials. Okay? I remember growing up in Wisconsin, I would look forward to Thursday and Friday nights, depending on what night they chose, at the Center Park of Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, with a bandstand and everything else, and they would have music, and they'd have apple and cherry and peach and all kinds of pies and ice cream socials. It was great fun. It was great to bring the community together. It was phenomenal. Now they're trying to stop that type of thing, too. You know, look at what you have as far as regulations are concerned. There is something out there that's putting the boot heel on all of your freedoms, and it's called the United States government, especially with this administration. And it's time, like I said, for a revolt against these idiotic registrations and regulations. Look about gun ownership. This is one that I'm very, very afraid of. I honestly believe, like Joe Wolverton said on our program last week, that gun ownership, through the United Nations now in that treaty that this administration signed with the UN, we are in a lot of trouble for private gun ownership. We are in a lot of trouble as to whether or not we'll be able to get ammunition. We are in a lot of trouble whether or not they may have, through the United Nations, gun confiscation. Don't laugh at this and say never in America. Because look at what's happened in the last 5, 6, 10 years that has changed the complexion of America to take away your freedoms. Caller, I'm going to ask your indulgence. I have to do one commercial. I'll be right with you, I promise. Don't go away. This week, the great big 42nd annual Salmon Select Horse and Mule Sale up at the Lemhi County Fairgrounds in Salmon. Oh, it's going to be fun. Starts on Wednesday this week, the 9th, with all kinds of packing clinics, mule clinics, and everything. Then it goes on with barrel racing and, of course, the big horse sale and team ropings and all kinds of booth displays. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it goes all the way through Sunday, the 13th. This is happening, the 42nd Annual Salmon Select Horse and Mule Sale, Lemhi County Fairgrounds, April 9th through the 13th. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. You know, in the last 20 years, they've added almost 82,000 regulations. The Code of Regulations now is about 175,000 pages. There's 500 pages in a ream, so folks figure out how much wall space that takes, and it's impossible for everybody to know all the rules. So every one of us are breaking rules all the time, and we don't even know about it.
Adrian, what in the world, what's it going to take for the American public to understand that it's not the America that our Constitution has provided for us? This is a rules and regulatory system that is tightening the noose around the freedoms of our country and our citizens. Why don't they understand this?
Well, for one thing, with the national news media, they basically are pro-environmental in most of their rulings.
They won't say anything against our president and all the executive orders that are coming down and the EPA and so forth. We still have the hoax of global warming being perpetrated by the national media, the United Nations, and Agenda 21 situation. It's just, we really have to keep plugging away and work on our congressional people. And unfortunately, they hold the purse strings, and yet they, like Simpson, he keeps, he says, well, I'm fighting for the American, you people out here, but, he keeps funding these things. As long as you give them the money, they're going to keep eating our substance out.
But, Adrian, there has to be a tipping point. There has to be a point where the American public is going to realize whether it's not being able to grow a garden, whether it's not being able to put salt on your meat products or your dishes at a restaurant or at your home, whether it's being able to buy a drink that you want in a certain size, whatever it is, people have got to finally realize that we are being told and controlled 24/7, 365.
Well, absolutely. And, so it's just a matter of keeping the heat on our elected people, and it needs to happen. I've been trying to get our state legislators to take a stand and come out with an agenda, or a bill, I should say, or a memorial or some kind that, opposing the global warming. And nobody wants to step forward and to do that, and so we got to put the heat, we got to educate our local people to do the same thing. And of course, if you saw, I just want to make a comment on the salt. That's been totally refuted. There is no relationship between salt intake and heart problems. If that was the case, my mother wouldn't have lived to be almost 92 years old. She put the salt shaker out and used it. And the same thing with butter and all the other things that were supposedly bad for us. They're now finding out through the underground media that's been revealed that, these things that they're regulating were actually better than the things that the substitutes.
Absolutely. Adrian, I appreciate your call. Drive with caution. Thank you very much, sir. I do appreciate that.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
It's kind of like, and I talked to our good friend Jim Patrick, Senator Patrick, the other day about his ag security bill. If you own animals, caller, I'll be there in a second. Stand by. If you own animals, I do. And I don't care if you're a dairy. I don't care if you're a hog operation. I don't care if you're a cow-calf operation, running cattle up in the mountains. I don't care if you're a horse operation. I don't care what you have with agriculture. If you own animals, you know that you use them, you don't abuse them. You give them the best of feed, the best of veterinary care. You give them the best of everything as a way of making and maintaining your operation, and also making sure that it's not a negative factor on the cost side. Of course you want to take care of your animals. And I am absolutely adamant that you should never let anyone like Mercy for Animals, what a bunch of fruitcakes they are, HSUS and others, how dare they demand that they come onto your property, video, or tell you how to run your operation. They have the IQ of a bicycle spoke, and they're trying to tell you that's in the business how to care for your animals. Never let them on your property. I don't care if you have to go and invest in 100 Dobermans that are going to extract that pound of flesh. Never let people on your property that you don't know. Don't trust anybody today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. I think the GOP made a big mistake in throwing the pit bull underneath the bus, the pit bull being the Tea Party. That's where a lot of our power is going to be. These are really the ones that want to see this country straightened up, but they're the ones that got it in the neck by our own party, the GOP, and that's my opinion.
Well, I'm not going to argue that. I think that the old guard Republicans have made a mockery out of what we're trying to do in this country to get our freedoms back and our regulations diminished. If they don't change things, whether it's Trey Gowdy or whether it's Ted Cruz or whomever, and basically throw out the old guard, the McCains, the McConnells, McDonalds, etc., I am absolutely adamant that we're going to go down the tube in not only this election in 2014, but the big one in 2016. I agree with you. I really agree with you. I'm fed up with the Republicans. They're gutless. And if they're offended by that, that's their problem, not mine. On a national level, they should be standing up outraged, and they're not. They're quibbling among themselves.
Well, if we don't start standing up for us, I can see the end of the road.
I do too, Tony. God bless you and Mary. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You bet. You know, I want to say something else about this ag bill. You know, the people that have been writing these letters to the Times News, brainless twits that probably own a little kitty cat or a little bitty chihuahua, and they're going to tell somebody how to run the dairy industry or a feedlot or a horse operation? I think not. Again, I want to be really straight up on this thing. Don't let anyone on your property. If it means investing in those no trespassing signs, and like I said, Doberman's fine. But absolutely, I think that people in livestock have to be oh so careful. And these twits are trying to stop any animal agriculture whatsoever. Caller, your patience, please. I'll be right with you. I want to brag a little bit about Barry Equipment and Rental. We are blessed to have them on our program, and they've got 3 locations to serve you. Addison Avenue in Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, and that beautiful brand new location at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley with Nick and the whole crew. Oh boy. And by the way, over there, they're looking for a full-time mechanic. I don't think they've filled that position yet, and they've got a brand new shop, heated floors, oh my, and don't forget too, they've got all the Walker mowers, take care of all your lawn mowing. They've got the best of the Doosan loaders and the excavators and all the Coyote tractors. It's there for you at Barry Equipment and Rental. Locations in Twin Falls, Jerome, and Burley, serving you at Barry Equipment and Rental. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Oh, yeah. You didn't happen to watch that link about the convention there in Kentucky over the weekend, did you?
No, I was completely removed away from anything like that this weekend. What would you quickly give me a synopsis of what you're talking about?
Well, it was Freedom Works is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
He had a convention there, and at the very end, Glenn Beck did he came up on stage and talked. It was one of the most amazing talks I've seen.
Well,
you really should watch that.
I will. I'll make it a point to go get it. But let me ask you a question. Everything I've said this hour, I'm sure knowing you like I do, you probably agree, and at times 10, that the American public is losing freedoms through rules and regulations, and it's time to stand up and say enough is enough. Do you agree or not?
Oh, yeah. That's the next thing I was going to talk to you about. This guy in Nevada, the federal agents are trying to shut him down because he's running his cows on BLM land that he has owned. Well, it's been in his family since the 1800s. And he says that he's fed up going through the courts and he's ready to die for it.
I know the family, and I'm not saying that to be theatrical. I know the Bundy family, and I have known the Bundy family for about 35, 40 years. And what's happening down there, it's almost like a Ruby Ridge-style standoff that could happen in Nevada with Cleveland Bundy and his grazing rights, and you're 100% right. The feds in here are going to be headed for a showdown, and I am trying. I tried yesterday on occasion to get members of the family to come on my program and discuss it. I wasn't successful for this morning, but Alias, I want to tell you we're working on it, so I do appreciate your thoughts on that.
Yeah, good. You get him on before they shoot him.
Well, I hope it doesn't come to something that crass or that dangerous and deadly. Thank you very much. I appreciate your call this morning. Thank you.
Sent you a story on it, so it sounds like they're after him bad.
Yeah, and I'm on top of it, believe me. Thank you for your call. You know, there's another thing about rights, rules, and regulations. Government, the big thumb of government coming down and squashing us like we're a little ant. And I'll give you another example of how our world is turning, and we're not standing up for anything, especially Christians. Christians, where are you? You've turned the other cheek 37 times. Don't you think it's time to stand up and say enough is enough? I'll get into that momentarily. Right now, I want to say Vicky's Country Garden. Don't forget, Vicky, of course, with a segment on Thursdays, answering all your gardening questions. Vicky's Country Garden at 185 South, 600 West of Paul. Oh, my. I'll tell you, she is your gardening needs stop. Right there. Stop. She's got all your seeds. She's got all the information. She can tell you how to grow that garden. She's got everything for the best of gardens this summer. Vicky's Country Gardens. What a nice lady. 185 South, 600 West of Paul, number 438-5663. We better have our weather forecast real quick, and the weather this hour is sponsored by our friends at Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. I've been there, and I've utilized their services, and they are great. I had a problem here about a couple of weeks ago, and boy, I needed to get it in a hurry, and I just stopped in there, and believe me, they did the job for me, and I appreciate them. They specialize in minor emergencies, but with major care. You better believe it. 382 North Overland in Burley. And, of course, walk-ins are welcome. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 9, Sundays 1 to 7. And that's Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. Right now, here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Son of a brand spanking new week of you, me, and weather. It's going to be absolutely, mostly sunny. 66 for the high. Gets better tomorrow. We're going to break a record tomorrow. 76 for the high tomorrow. Clear tonight, and got a nice cool evening to kind of go out for a walk and just enjoy each other. Just go out for a walk and just kind of kick back and enjoy springtime in the Magic Valley of South Central Idaho. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. The doctor will see you now, not in 4 or 5 days. That's exactly what it is, in the kind of service you need. Minor emergencies, major care at Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, 382 North Overland in Burley. Wonderful people serving you. You know, I want to talk specifically right now about a problem that's coming up, and it's getting worse every day because Christians are not standing up and saying, wait a minute, enough is enough. The gay and lesbian and transgender lifestyle is being literally forced upon us. Literally forced upon us and our children. It's immoral, it's wrong, and above all, it's not natural, it's not normal. Okay? Plain and simple. But now, with the so-called transition in thinking, the new way of thinking, if you do not believe in the gay lifestyle or gay marriage, well, you're going to lose your job, possibly. And this happened. This happened just over the weekend. Mozilla, it's a company that operates a web browser called Firefox. Well, the CEO, a man by the name, and by the way, he's also the co-founder, Brandon Ike. I'll tell you what, the gays came after him because he stood up for traditional marriage. He stood up for marriage between a man and a woman, and they went after him like a junkyard dog and basically forced him out of his company that he founded. He's gone. He's gone. Because he had his own personal thoughts about the Bible and traditional marriage, and he spoke up, and they nailed him. Oh, yeah. So the rest of the Christians in our society, are we all cowards? What about the ministers up at the pulpit? You should be preaching what the Bible says. You should be preaching about Romans 1:27 and everything else that's in the Bible. But no. Let's just go along and get along. Well, I'll tell you something. It's time to speak out. And if we're willing to accept everything that's being thrown at us, all the sinful lifestyles and everything, we deserve what we get. And boy, are we getting it, because we won't speak out. And now they're saying that we're bigots and we're hate mongers if we do speak out. Well, this radio program will continue to speak out. One of the major problems that we have with rules and regulations that are going against us, and I don't have to tell you this, is the EPA. The EPA is nothing more than a Chicago mob-style gang. Al Capone, any name you want it. They're a bunch of thugs and punks that are running rampant right now, and they're coming in, and they're a pathetic excuse for an American office of bureaucracy. They are absolutely thugs and punks. And it should be totally unfunded and destroyed. But nobody in government has the guts. No senators, no congressmen, they haven't got the guts. Oh, they'll talk about, we've got to cut back on their funding. We've got to do this and that. But there's not anybody standing up as a group in a unified voice saying, that's enough. You're crippling American society. You're crippling our jobs. You're crippling our progress. You're crippling our energy programs. Right now, the number one problem, and I think this is true, I talked to Dr. Arp the other day about this, and I believe him, the number one problem we have in this country is energy or the lack of. If we were to cast away all these bloated pigs that call themselves members of the EPA and government bureaucrats and environmentalists and open up an energy program that was for a progressive America and jobs, this country would be flying back high again. But no, we're tied to these absolute thugs and punks. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning again. The rancher you were talking about, was he in Nye County in Nevada?
I'm not sure of the county, but I can tell you this. His name is Cleavon Bundy. I know the Bundy family. As I said, I've known them for years. They've been affiliated and associated with the rodeo business also. And this situation down in Nevada is now taking on some very deadly and serious consequences with the government. And I'm going to be trying to get a hold of them and hopefully get them on the program, if not tomorrow, possibly on Wednesday.
Well, last night on Fox News, they portrayed a rancher that was in Nye County, Nevada. This happened years ago, back in the...
No, this is right now. This is right now, Keith.
Yeah, but this is what happened. Is the government kept intruding on him and everything, and so finally they went to the government and did all this, and then it went to court. In the meantime, the rancher died, and his son took over. A new fight has to begin. And then the United States Supreme Court ruled that he was right.
Yeah. Keith.
And all of a sudden, the United States government owed him $14 million.
Yeah, and people's lives have been torn apart through these stupid, frivolous, absolutely asinine, illegal rules and regulations. And I absolutely have nothing that I can say that's good verbiage about the EPA and what they're doing, how they're absolutely destroying families and personal property. But, you know, you're in the car business, man. You ought to have a story about 10 years long in length about all the regulations and rules they've imposed on you.
You know, the funny thing of it is that these people have not received one single dime of that $14 million.
Yeah, I know.
And here just recently, in the last year or so, some cattle accidentally grazed over onto some land that they shouldn't have been on, and so the government threw up a big fuss, and so now you owe the government $1.65 for infringing on the grazing.
Yeah, this deal down in Nevada with Cleavon Bundy, the feds are making their charges against him, and it could blow up into, like I said, kind of a Ruby Ridge-style standoff, and I hope it doesn't. They claim that by where he's grazing, he's endangering a protected species of the tortoise. And I'm just going to say this. I am so fed up with endangered species taking over for human beings and making a living. Look at, Keith, look at what happened in California with that little stupid smelt, what do they call it, the Delta smelt, that little bitty fish about an inch long, and some got into the pumps of irrigation, some did, and they said, oh, we got to shut all the water off, we got to stop irrigation, for a little silly inch-long fish that's worthless. I'm telling you, Keith, we've got to start overturning these rules and regulations, and quite frankly, if we need a revolution in this nation, it's about time, because this country's going down the tube.
I agree 100%.
All right.
Bring your sword.
Keith, thank you for your call. Appreciate it. I got to run and do some commercials here real quick before I run out of time. Again, I want to remind you about Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Do not forget, whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, or a heat pump, your family will always enjoy the comfort of Lennox through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, serving you. Real fast, I'll take some more calls. I've got to tell you, too, that we've got a great big spring tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. All the tires are on sale for your cars, pickups, SUVs. And by the way, I know you're going to be doing a little bit more traveling, so make sure that the horse trailer tires are good, the boat trailer tires are good, everything's safe. You bet. Stop in today and check out all the tire buys at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And, of course, the best in brake service, the best. They've got custom wheels on sale, shocks and struts, front end alignments. It's all there. All there. The best in service to you with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, Twist Family and Paul, John on Poline and Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, go ahead. I got 2 minutes left.
These people that we're talking about in Nevada
yes.
is one more reason why the states need to get back their federal lands.
Absolutely.
Because on the eastern half of the United States, they don't have to put up with the stuff that we do out here.
Chris, I'm glad you called in. I've only got a couple of minutes left, and I agree with what you said, but you know something? There's a war on America's people. You know, look at this. There's a war on energy. There's a war on coal. There's a war on nuclear. There's a war on oil production. There's a war on our food. There's a war on everything that we do from this administration telling the American public they want to live under complete control.
And too many people are not educated enough to realize that this is happening to them.
Oh, I know it.
Can't believe it.
Chris, God bless you for your call. I appreciate it. Real
Bye-bye.
quick, caller, I've got 30 seconds. Fast. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, one more quote I forgot to tell you about that was on that program I told you about. And they said that we have to beat the Republicans before we can beat the Democrats.
In some respects, I believe that, because they've got to get unified and get a voice that's of singular nature instead of acting like a shotgun coming out in all different angles and patterns. I agree with that to some extent. Thank you for your call back. I got to run to the news. Thank you. Folks, I want to wrap this up by just saying this. Honestly, sit down and think about how you're being told to live, what you're being told to do, what you're being told you can't do, what they're taking away in this country that, my goodness sakes, we've got to stand up for. Our forefathers died for our Constitution and our rights. What are we doing? Just abdicating these things back to a bunch of bureaucrats that have the IQ of a flat tire. We've got to stand up and fight for ourselves. Don't be milquetoast and spineless. I'll be back in 6. Oh my. Welcome back. Hour number 2, Zev at the Ranch on a Monday, and man, oh man, I wish I could move this out on my deck. This is really a good-looking day out there. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zev Bell at Zev at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. And, of course, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Always at your disposal. Believe me, those are the key words. And right now, with the better weather coming on and a lot of plans for being outside and different spring and summer events, don't forget they've got all the porta potties. Don't forget they've got the best in trash collection. And don't forget they've got the Go Minis, the portable storage units. Absolutely great. Call them. Talk to them. They'll help you. 734-6969. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Another group of people that I just absolutely enjoy to be around and talk to, and that's Joel Heward. That man always has a smile on his face and has a great outlook on everything. Hanson Mortuary, Joel Heward and his staff, 710 6th Street in Rupert. And believe me, they know that the passing of a loved one, very difficult time for the family, and you need someone there that can dot all the I's, cross all the T's, and take care of everything with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. That's Hanson Mortuary. Please give them a call today. Number 436-5636. And they always provide the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday morning, and I get a chance to talk to, and I mean this when I say this, a very, very dear friend, and he's in Golden, Colorado. Good morning, Frosty Woldridge. How are you?
Well, good morning, Zeb. Always a pleasure, sir.
You know, I don't know if you had a chance to catch my latest cow pies, but I featured you and a lot of your thoughts in there because I've stated very succinctly that you are right and we're right, have been right for a long time on this immigration mess that we have in this country. And just the other day, Frosty, and I don't know, I try to read about 4 or 5 different newspapers every day. There was a story in the USA Today that I featured in my cow pies and coffee cups about how the United States is being asked to ease up on refugee restrictions. Frosty, I think they ought to be tightening them up, not easing them.
Oh, well, no question about that. Actually, you wrote such a you just laid it on the line as to what we're doing to ourselves as a nation. I featured your piece, and it will publish all over the country. You will be the lead quote, as if it was an interview, on News with Views, and today on Freedom's Phoenix, on what we face. And you're so right on, and we are so right on, because what we're doing to our country, there was a complimentary piece that was also written to me. And this is happening to all first world countries. Canada is being flooded with people from Africa, from Indonesia, from South America, from Mexico, and from India, and from China, because those countries are so overloaded that they literally are just expelling their excess humanity into first world countries who, by the way, by 1970, Canada, America, Europe, Australia, all had a 2 children per family rate of growth, which means they were stable civilizations, stable societies. And because of mass immigration, they're literally being overrun. Now, I hope everyone last Monday got to see the 4-minute piece by Ann Thompson on NBC News with Brian Williams, and the piece was "No One is Immune. Study offers bleak climate change outlook." And I have in the piece, I added that to the piece, and of course it said on the piece, one of the scientists, she asked, "Well, who should be concerned about this?" And he said, "Everyone who eats food." And then last night, after I watched the evening news, I have to tell you that Ann Curry did a 1-hour special, and the title was 1 Year of Extremes, Did Climate Change Just Hit Home? I hope many of you saw that, but if you didn't, I have links to it. And then, of course, I featured your story on this piece, and it's titled, "Who Should Be Concerned? Answer everyone who eats food." And the key is, we are on course right now, without the 744 Senate bill that passed the Senate last year. We're on course to add 100 million legal immigrants into this country within the next 36 years. It will raise the carbon footprint. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, it will add probably 50, 60, 70 million more cars. It'll add 50, 60 million more smokestacks. It will add 50, 60 million more 100 million more users of water, and right on down the line. And if anybody thinks we're going to just escape this thing and skate through because we're going to have enough water, we're going to have enough energy, we're going to have enough resources, those 2 pieces that Ann Curry did and Ann Thompson shows us we're boxing ourselves into a corner, we're painting ourselves into a corner, and it's not going to be good for anybody. So I hope most of you, at least, and I know many of you listening today, saw that piece by Ann Curry last night on NBC, and if you didn't, go to the link and find it, because man, oh man, are we in a lot of trouble.
Well, here's the deal that's bothering me more than anything else, and I want to stick with this refugee deal. You know, Frosty, you know as well as I do that these people are not being checked. Their backgrounds are not being looked at. There's not a scrutiny. And I'm going to give you 2 paragraphs out of the story about easing up on refugee restrictions. One of these paragraphs is, quote, "To be eligible, individuals must disclose the support and show that they neither intended to support nor knew that their support of terrorists would further terrorist or violent acts." Holy cow. And then listen to this. "By protecting those fleeing terrorists and persecution, it provides a ringing affirmation of our heritage in America and history as a compassionate, welcoming country." So we're supposed to forget if they're terrorists. We're supposed to forget if they did anything against our troops. And we're supposed to say, well, gee, they're trying to change their ways, so come to America. I'm scared to death about this.
Well, we ought to be scared to death. I want everyone to really appreciate this, Zeb, and I hope you get even more experts that are very knowledgeable about this. I've got one kid that I wrote about, and he's a man from New Rochelle in New York, and he says, well, these Muslims, they're not doing anything in our country. They're all mostly peaceful and so forth. And I, of course, talked about the Boston Marathon bombing, but I also talked about the Fort Hood killings. I also talked about the Fort Dix. I also talked about the female genital mutilation that now is rampant in this country because of the 7 million Muslims that are here. And the fact that they don't just give up their culture when they come to America anymore. They just don't stop what they were doing. And the fact is that Islam is a violent religion. I'll state that unequivocally. Islam is a violent religion. That's why you see all this violence going on in all of these Islamic countries. They can't get it together. Whether it's Iraq that had a total ability to create a democratic society after we are there for 10 years, left them with some kind of a cohesive possibility for freedom of thought, freedom of speech. None of that has occurred. The same thing in Afghanistan, the Kurdistan, Pakistan. You can go down every Muslim-dominated country, and violence is endemic to Islam. It's a part of and parcel of their entire history. It's a bloody history from the 6th century on, because the man who started it, Muhammad, was a pedophile. He was a chauvinist. He was illiterate, and he was violent. He cut people's heads off that disagreed with him. And that is part and parcel of the Middle East and the way it operates. And so here you have Syria, you have all of these Muslim countries in Africa right now, literally Somalia. And if anybody thinks, any woman out there thinks that they're going to have a fun time with Islam and how wonderful it is, which you'll hear from some of the great, the liberal speakers in this country, you got another thing coming, because as this thing comes in on us, it starts to really take over, and it will manifest itself even further into our country, whether it's the Syrians that come here from the refugees, you name it. We are in a lot of trouble.
Well, let's just play this on the up and up and start with just a couple of facts. You are very well read, very well versed, and you know what's going on around the world. Tell me one country in the Middle East, one Islamic country, that has an export system of anything other than oil that is for the world benefit. Tell me one thing.
Well, actually, they have a lot of heroin.
That's for the good of the country, all right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And again, so what you're seeing is that this system of life keeps a lot of people, most people, illiterate, so that they cannot and they do not and they have not come into the 21st century. And the only things that have benefited them is they've been sitting on giant oil supplies, which have the rich and the elite have literally created complete kingdoms for themselves but the normal average person in an Islamic country is still as poor and as illiterate as they were 30 or 40 years ago. And that I can tell you this, and this is my own deduction, rational, logical deduction. As oil disappears from these countries and they pull all the oil out of the ground, they will go back to being Bedouin tribes because they simply don't have the cultural and the intellectual horsepower and the cultural horsepower to maintain all of this really oil benefit type of building that they've got going on. It's going to be very interesting. And it's going to be very sad, actually.
Well, Frosty, like I said in my blog, we're welcoming these people into our country. And for what benefit and to whose benefit? They want their own culture, they want their own language, and now they're trying to get the implementation and the affirmation of their own laws in our country. And we're seeing, instead of a melting pot to where we're all of the same thought and all of the same value system under our Constitution, we're looking at total fragmentation. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out this is a mess.
Well, it is, and I'm quoting you, the Titanic, U.S., is sinking into a sewage pit of chaos. What good is a hand extended in friendship when all they want is a handout? And again, ladies and gentlemen, we're paying $346 billion, B as in boy, $1 billion a year for all of these immigrants that are coming into this country, whether it's their children, which they just have ad infinitum, and we pay for their breakfast, their lunches, we pay for their schooling, we pay for their medical, and they have no responsibility. But I have to tell you, another writer came in, and he said there's an agenda by the elite. He says, why? He says right here, after listening to Alan Watt, who's a writer on this for 10 years now, I can almost predict the future now that I know what the agenda is, i.e. the planned destruction of America through uncontrolled immigration and sending incompatible cultures to parts of America that have no business being there. Africans sent to Minnesota resettled. Muslims taking over Detroit. These are all planned by the elite. Mexicans taking over Southern California and Arizona and Texas. He says the elite are the ones that are injecting all these people into this country. And he talks about the dumbing down of the school systems and sending all the jobs to Asia and then running wars for profit. He says both the Republicans and Democrats have bought into the agenda, and that's what's going on right now, and we all get to be the victims of it. And so his piece really complements your piece. But somebody is holding on to the throttle and injecting in this country into this mess. And, just a few of us are standing up and speaking out about it, but it's still going on. And again, if this bill passes, 744, the House, either this year or next year, that stream of incompatible immigrants from all over the world, 150 countries, will double in rate of speed from 1 million to 2 million per year. So, Zeb, it's really, at some point, people are going to start listening more to Zeb at the Ranch and understand that we have gotten ourselves into a heck of a fix.
Well, I look at this situation, and I mentioned it in my piece, and I won't go into that right now in its entirety, but you look at our saying to Putin, stay out of the Ukraine and honor their borders. We say to North and South Korea, to the North, stay out of the South Korea and honor their borders. And we are just a laughing stock to the rest of the world because we, right now, don't have any clue as to what's happening with our borders. We're a joke.
We are. In fact, we don't have any border protection whatsoever. In fact, Barack Obama and Eric Holder and the new Homeland Security and ICE man are absolutely making sure that the Border Patrol stand down. And in fact, one of my longtime friends who is a 30-year veteran, John Slagle, just said, we're being neuterized, just totally neutered down there on the border, backing off from any kind of confrontation of all these illegals coming across the border. But again, as I said, we've still got 100,000 legal immigrants coming in every 30 days. Every 30 days. I don't think anybody understands the implications of that. And if this 744 bill passes, we will have 200,000 legal immigrants coming in every 30 days. This thing is so out of hand, and yet the American people just watch, sit, and do nothing as it just keeps mounting, and the consequences just keep continuing to grow.
You know, Frosty, as much as you get around the country and you talk and you visit with people and you try to get your writings read by other people in the media and to try to get your name on different dockets so you can speak, what about your neighbors? What about the people in Colorado? What about the leadership of Colorado? I know you've had trouble with Udall and others, but are they not listening? Can they not see the problem that we have?
They actually can't. They're in a other alternative universe, Zeb, and their consciousness is a total denial of reality. I mean, Udall and Bennett. I visited their offices, and of course the Polis, who's my representative, and even Mike Kaufman, who is another one of my representatives. I'm in a split district here. I've gone to see Kaufman, gave him the facts and figures right on down the line, and he just went over his head. So there's a lot of people in Washington, D.C. that don't see the long-term picture. And before we leave this show, I just want to make sure that all of you who do care, please sign up, capsweb.org, numbersusa.org, and FAIR, FAIRUS.org, because that is your only collective power to change the course of history, and I mention that each week because I want all of you to join those three organizations, because we are in so much trouble if we continue on this massive immigration influx, both legally and illegally, Zeb.
Well, you know, and quickly, short answer on this, but I know you want to respond to this. I really put a damning quotation against the Democrats, because you know as well as I do that right now their movement is only for their own benefit, to buy more voters for not only this 2014 election, but also in 2016. And that's why we're seeing such laxity at our borders and also on the refugee system.
Well, that's exactly. And please understand that, without a doubt, we're going to have everybody who gets free stuff, and that's millions upon millions of people in this country. Who do you think they vote for?
Amen.
They vote for the hand that gives them free stuff. And so, as you all know, socialism it just works great as long as they keep being able to take all the money from your pocket, that you are the one that works, and give it to all those who don't work. And if that power paradigm continues, at some point there will be more of those who don't work that keep getting all the free stuff, and less of those of us who do work, that it all collapses on itself. That's why socialism simply doesn't work. But in the interim, it keeps working just because there's enough of us that do work that earn all that money to give. Again, the free food stamps, the 48 million people in this country who are getting food stamps and eating off of my back and your back and everyone's back that's listening out there right now, that's going to continue until we don't have a back left to support 48 million people living on food stamps. The same thing goes with all of these immigrants, both legal and illegal, that are cascading into this country. At some point, there's no way to support them, because there's no way that we can maintain all of the foodstuffs, the housing, the energy, the free energy that we have to pay for all those who can't pay for themselves. So we really are spiraling into a consequence that is going to be quite unfortunate for everyone.
Absolutely. On a lighter note, well, it's not really a lighter note, because, boy, do I have egg on my face. I picked Wisconsin and Florida in tonight's championship game, and to be quite frank with you, oops, I guessed wrong.
Well, yeah, but you only guessed wrong by just a split bounce the wrong way, a foul that was called the wrong way, but Wisconsin was brilliant. I mean, let's face it, they were brilliant. I mean, Kentucky hung on for their dear life, and again, it literally, a game that tight, it has to do with the ball bouncing one way or the other, and if it just bounced the wrong way and the one guy picks it up, the whole game changes. But that was a heck of a game, and Wisconsin can stand proud. And Kentucky just skinned its way out of that game. So yeah, but anyway, that's college basketball. That's all sports, and the final two coming down the night, I guess.
Absolutely, UConn and Kentucky. Frosty, always, and UConn. I mean, I say this from the bottom of my heart. You're always welcome on the show, dear friend. God's blessings to you, and we'll talk to you next Monday. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, Zeb, and thank you for bringing these up. And again, I'm sending you the piece that I featured your entire column on, along with this other fella, because you're so right on. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to Zeb Bell, listen to the experts, because he is one of the bedrock foundations of our country. And if we continue to understand exactly what he's bringing to us, we have a chance to save our republic, and that's why Zeb Bell really is one of the great Americans, and I'm going to stand by your side the whole way, Zeb.
I appreciate that, Frosty, and again, the best to you, and we'll look forward to next Monday. Thank you so much. My dear friend in Golden, Colorado, Frosty Woldridge. And caller, I'm sorry I'm flat out of time in this segment. Stand by. I'll try to get your call in before the next guest, but stand by just for a minute. I want to remind everybody about life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, the list goes on, of the service that you need to check out and make sure you're covered with our friends at Cameron Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Dean and Todd, very dedicated and accessible to serving you, and call them, 436-4424. Don't put it on the back burner. Do it today. 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Caller, real fast. I'm sorry I had to cut off the conversation with Frosty. What can I do for you? Real fast.
Yeah, Zeb, right after I called you this morning, I called our 3 congressmen about my pet peeve, which is those training camps, and I says I'm sick and tired of being put off and getting bogus answers back to my questions about it. So if I don't get any, this is 9 calls about that stuff. So if I don't get what I want, I'm going to the newspapers. I've got an article partially written, and I'm going to turn it over to this left-wing newspaper up here and see what's happened.
You know, Tony, I wish more people would get involved and do what they say they will do like you are. And thank you very much, and keep us informed on that, would you, my friend?
I certainly will. I'll send a letter to you when I receive it.
All right, Tony. Thank you so much. There's a gentleman that gets involved and does what he says he's going to do. Hey, I know another man that does what he says he's going to do, and this is one of the nicest people ever on God's earth, and that's Colonel Dale Whipple. I have the utmost respect for that man. And Whipple's Book Plaza at 222 West 11th Street in Burley. Happy Easter from the Book Plaza, and they've got all the different varieties of the Bible, and they've got Easter coloring books and stickers. Well, you know what? The Book Plaza has it all for you and your family. That's right. And it's also, I don't know if you knew this or not, but it's the home of the National Pioneer Hall of Fame. And that's another tribute to the great man, Colonel Dale Whipple. You stop into the Book Plaza, thousands and thousands and thousands of books, everything you're looking for gift giving. Whipple's Book Plaza, 222 West 11th Street in Burley. Really nice people. We're going to have our next guest with us on the phone in just a few moments from the Alliance Defending Freedom, but I also want to remind you, spring cleaning inventory reduction at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Oh, my. You better get on in there because they are your number one furniture store. They've got the very, very best of all the carpeting that you need. They've got the very, very best of all the mattresses and the bedroom sets. They've got the very, very best of all the vinyl wood flooring, everything. They've got the very, very best of all the furniture, all the sofas, all the recliners, everything for your home comfort and beautification. Talk to the people that are the number one choice right there. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Big spring cleaning inventory reduction, $4.59 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Really nice people. Let's get on the phone right now and go to one of the legal counsels with our friends at Alliance Defending Freedom, and that's Steve Aden. Good morning, Steve. How are you today?
Good morning, Zebra. Well, how are you?
Nice to have you on the program. And, Steve, I got to tell you, I always look forward to Mondays and having the segment with the Alliance Defending Freedom. And what you folks do, and you, of course, the senior counsel with the ADF, to basically support what is right and what is religious and what is Christian in this country. And one of the things that really bothers me is that even every day that goes by, there seems to be less of an appreciation and value for life and more of a push towards more abortions. Bring us up to speed as to what's happening with the Alliance Defending Freedom and the abortion issue, especially with Planned Parenthood.
I'd be happy to, Zeb. There's a string of good news in the last week and a half to tell your listeners. It started with a decision by the Federal Court of Appeals over Texas, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. This was the second decision handed down by a panel of 3 judges regarding Texas's law that regulates chemical abortions, the pill abortions, as well as requires abortionists to have admitting privileges in a hospital within 30 miles of their business, so that when they botch the job, they can't cut and run and fly back to where they came from and leave their patients to try to get treatment in an emergency room, which is always problematic. Last week, the Court of Appeals upheld all portions of that law in Texas and approved the constitutionality of both requiring abortionists to have admitting privileges like all other doctors that perform surgery, and allowed the state to regulate chemical abortion in ways that will make it increasingly more difficult and less profitable for these fly-by-night operations. And we know that when abortionists are required to hold to the same medical standards as other real doctors, more often than not, they can't do it. They have to shut their doors, and that's always good for babies and for the cause of life. So that was a good start to spring, and following on the heels of the 2 Texas Court of Appeals decisions, we had a decision coming out of Kansas. Kansas decided to stop sending federal money to abortion providers, and so they passed a law that said that funds devoted to helping families would not go to Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers anymore. And they directed those funds instead to federally qualified health clinics, to public health clinics, and other providers of preventive care. And of course, Planned Parenthood and others squawked about that and ran to federal court. Well, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, that is the court over Kansas, ruled that was just fine, that a state has the authority to direct its monies to other than abortion providers. So those are 2 very good developments. I got a couple more if we've got time.
Yeah, I just want to interrupt here for a second, Steve, and just say that, when I hear these stories about the basic killing of babies and killing of human beings, and I just get sickened to think that this country, America, that has been so blessed by God ever since its beginning, and we're doing almost every single thing we can to turn our backs on God and our Christian heritage, and to think that we're actually funding with money, tax dollars, the death of human beings in this country, it just sickens me.
Well, yeah, it is despicable, Zeb, is the best word I can think of. And we've got to keep telling the truth. The more you tell the truth about what abortion is and does, both to babies and to mothers, the more that folks see the light. And that's a big part of the work that Alliance Defending Freedom does, both in the courts and outside of them, and a big part of the work that you do. And I really appreciate your commitment to telling the truth. The more we do that, the more folks will hear and understand. Abortion is dropping rapidly as folks understand what abortion really is and does. In the last 4 years, the rate of abortion in America has gone down by about 15 or 20%. That's about 100,000 lives saved. About the population of Birmingham, Alabama, has been saved in the last several years just from folks knowing more about the evil of abortion and turning away from it. On the other side of the issue, the regulation, as I mentioned, of abortionists to force them to try to meet the standards that regular doctors meet has also caused a lot of abortion businesses to close. Over 100 abortion businesses have closed across the country in the last year and a half, and that rate is continuing unabated. So the good work that a lot of your listeners, I'm sure, are doing with groups like 40 Days for Life and their local pro-life alliances is really having an effect, and lives are being saved. In the courts, too. I mean, a couple of other victories we've had. For example, in Arizona. Arizona has regulated chemical abortion also, just like Texas did. And we got a decision from a federal judge last Monday saying to Planned Parenthood that it would refuse to put a hold on the law. Planned Parenthood asked for an injunction to stop the law, saying that it would close multiple abortion businesses. And the judge said, in essence, so what? This is good for women. It's good for women's health. And so the state has the authority to protect women's health against dangerous drugs like RU46. So across the country, we're getting more victories in court, more abortion mills being shut down, more people becoming aware of what abortion really is and does, and more lives are being saved. So that's the good news.
You know, it really is, and it's just, like I said, I'm going to repeat myself probably in this phrase, but I look at, when you use the term abortion businesses, it's almost like an oxymoron. How could anybody get up in the morning and go to work at a quote-unquote business of basically killing human beings? I mean, it just gives me a cold shiver, Steve.
Well, yeah, it's not a proper business, nothing respectable that regular businessmen in the community do for the good of the community. We call it a business because it's a profit-making enterprise, and we want to know that. We want people to know that they're really focused on the bottom line. They don't care about women; they care about their bottom line. Look at Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is a billion-dollar-plus corporation. It's a nonprofit on paper, but how can it be truly a nonprofit when it makes hundreds of millions of dollars every year? A lot of it your tax money, and it's got hundreds of millions of dollars in surplus that it has sitting in the bank. That doesn't sound like a nonprofit to me. That sounds more like very big business, and that's exactly what it is.
Steve, are you seeing a trend? I don't know quite how to phrase this, but are you seeing among the younger generations, the 19 to 25-year-olds, let's say, are we seeing a trend for perhaps a more respectful look and attitude towards human life, or is it becoming less and no value every day of that generation? Are we seeing things turn the corner or not?
I think it is turning the corner, Zeb. In fact, that age group, the young people, are the most pro-life group of any age group. More pro-life than their parents, more pro-life even than their grandparents. They are, by and large, unabashedly, unapologetically pro-life. And that's a lot of hope for the future. I think it's because they've grown up seeing the ultrasounds both on television and in real life. They've grown up knowing better than older folks what abortion really is and does, thanks to technology. They see the horror of it. They see the cruelty of it. They have many peers who have suffered from it, and so they are not by any way, shape, or form pro-abortion. And a lot of them, with groups like Students for Life of America, are really turning the tide. Students for Life has groups on over 550 campuses across the country now. It's an incredible youth movement. They sponsor, with Alliance Defending Freedom, the largest pro-life conference annually in January, right around the time of March for Life. And last time we had, I think, 2,500 student pro-life leaders from across the country come to this conference, learn how to be engaged to make a difference on their campus and in their and for their world.
Steve, I want to just tell you that I'm very, very honored to have the Alliance Defending Freedom on my program every week, and so that people can follow these stories and other stories that you're working on, give the information as to how they can possibly even help.
Well, thanks, Zeb. They can go to our website. That's the best way, AllianceDefendingFreedom.org. It's AllianceDefendingFreedom, one word, .org, and that will have everything they need to know about how to get involved.
Absolutely. Senior Counsel with the Alliance Defending Freedom, Steve Aden. I really commend you and compliment you for your excellent work, and please don't make yourself a stranger and come back and visit with us again in the future, would you please?
My pleasure, Zeb. Thank you very much.
All right. God's blessings to you. Thank you very much. You know, it's just, it's hard for me to sit and listen to these stories about abortions and basically women that use abortions as, I guess very, very succinctly, a birth control device, which I find appalling. And the funding of our money going to the death of human beings, I can't handle that. It just really bothers me. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Once again, I want to remind you about Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Of course, gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, all of this and more with our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459. Lennox and Ramsey Heating and Electric, serving you. We're going to have the weather in just a minute, and after that, I'm going to ask Gina a couple of questions. We haven't had much of a chance to visit with her this morning, and it's Monday, a new work week, and I'm sure that she's had probably a lot of fun this past weekend, going to make me jealous, and she's also going to probably rub it in about her selection of UConn and Kentucky in the final game tonight, so we'll get her on the air in just a moment. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about the weather, and what a forecast we've got with Michael Rogers, brought to you this hour by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. And don't forget, if you purchase a firearm from Red's Trading Post, you'll receive training bucks for both the LMS Defense and Shaw Shooting to use in their rifle and pistol training courses. Very, very valuable, and I recommend those highly. Stop into Red's Trading Post in Twin for all your guns, ammo, and accessories. And here now is Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Start of a brand spanking new week of you, me, and weather. It's going to be absolutely, mostly sunny. 66 for the high. It gets better tomorrow. We're going to break a record tomorrow. 76 for the high tomorrow. Clear tonight, and got a nice, cool evening to kind of go out for a walk and just enjoy each other. Just go out for a walk and just kind of kick back and enjoy springtime in the Magic Valley of South Central Idaho. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. What a great sounding forecast, man. I'm going to wrap that one up and put it in a bottle. Hope we can keep it. Red's Trading Post bringing you the weather this hour. 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls for all your guns, ammo, and accessories. Red's Trading Post. Gina, how are you this morning?
I am doing well, and how are you?
Well, I got an interesting little study I wanted to pass along to you.
Okay.
You and I think you and James and everybody that I know, you're an avid prime rib, ribeye, steak lover, aren't you?
Oh, you know it.
Okay. Did you hear about this new medical report? It came out last week on Thursday. A new medical report is out that being a vegan, being a vegetarian is not all it's cracked up to be. As a matter of fact, the new studies that are coming out in medical journals, they are less happy and less healthy, and they're not getting all the vitamins they need.
They're not getting the iron probably that they need. They're not getting the amount of protein that they need and the omega fatty acids. And so if you eat meat in the proper proportions, you're going to be just fine and just healthy. And, of course, I love a good juicy steak.
Well, I tell you what they're finding out in this study, and for all the vegans out there that think that you're better than the rest of us, you're not. They're finding out that there are higher rates of asthma and cancer and also mental health problems with people that are vegans over people that are meat eaters and like a good cheeseburger or a good steak every now and then, or like I had on Saturday night, a delicious prime rib. They're finding out that they're really lacking in vitamin B12, and that helps in the nervous system and everything, and they're just not healthy people.
So they need to eat meat, and I think maybe it's the reason with maybe some of them are going crazy, as you put it, is because they can't eat meat. Maybe their significant other says no, and so they're going crazy because they're told they can't.
But I think there's an underlying. Now, maybe you won't agree with this, but I think there's an underlying reason as to why the vegans are really pushing this, the environmentalists are really pushing this, and the animal rights activists are really pushing, the vegan diet. They don't want anything used for consumption by human beings of animals. And now these studies are coming out, and boy, it's a thumb in their eye that vegans are less healthy than the rest of us.
They don't take their vitamins, and they don't eat their meat.
There you go.
Eat your meat.
There you go. Do we have a call?
You do?
Oh, okay. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, I had a sister years ago that went all crazy like this, and she had a baby, and she was trying to nurse it, and she was drying up, and guess what? They told her to eat meat. So she did, and her milk came in, she was able to nurse her baby.
I want to ask you this. I don't disrespect someone for their vegetarian or their vegan views. They have a right to believe in what they want and a right to eat what they want. But here's the caveat. I am sick and tired of the vegans trying to force you and I out of our eating habits and out of what we like to eat. And especially now when you see these studies that show that they're not as healthy as we are, I guess maybe we can lord that over them because, man, we know what we were talking about all the time.
Yeah, anyway, I just thought it was interesting. So what did they tell her to do? Told her to eat meat.
There you go.
Came back in.
There you go. Sir, I appreciate your call as always. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. But Gina, the thing that's going on in this country is, I don't care if it's about the eating meat, I don't care, like I said in the first hour, there are so many rules and regulations that are being imposed on us, especially with our food and what we eat, how we eat it. They're going to try to break some of these great companies like Kellogg's and everything else. But the higher food costs go up. The higher food costs go up because of limitations on what we can eat according to the government. Guess who's going to suffer the most? It's going to be the middle class and lower class incomes that are going to be basically starving to death to try to uphold what the government is imposing on them.
Exactly, and then of course, we're going to get in trouble for having our own gardens because we can't afford the food in the grocery stores, so we have to grow our own, and then it's just some vicious cycle.
But I said something, and then I had a call on my cell phone during one of the breaks, and they said, well, you're advocating breaking the law. I'm advocating not even letting that become law because these regulations and all these rules are absolutely going against the grain of what this country stands for, whether it's energy or whether it's food or whether it's what we wear, where we go to work, how we go to work, everything. The government wants total control, and I honestly will stand up and say this word. Everybody's scared of it. It's a 6-letter word. They go, oh, you can't say that. I say it's time for a revolt in this country against bureaucracy taking over.
I was last night. I was in a kind of a Paul Harvey mood, and Paul Harvey being the icon that he was. And I found a little tidbit clip that I'm going to post up on your Facebook page, and it was called "Freedoms to Change." It was a broadcast that he had put out in 1965, and it exactly illustrates and talks about what is exactly going on in our country today, how we are giving up our freedoms to the federal government. The federal government wants more money because, we have a bigger government, so everybody needs to get paid, so the taxes go higher. And, we get fat, we get lazy, we don't want to have any responsibility for ourselves, so we're just going to have the government take care of us. And this was put back out in 1965, and I was listening to it last night, and I'm like, this is so true because when it comes down to the food that we're putting on our plates, to the money that we make that we're trying to put in the bank that the government wants to take from us, this is very scary. And so, we need to get the government out of our lives.
Well, and the thing is,
stand up and do a revolt, and don't make those things become law.
Well, I'll go back to the food issue for a minute. Okay. Already in New York City, there are restaurants, Gina, that will not put salt on the table. They won't let you have salt in their restaurant. They're telling you can't have something. They're telling you basically what and how much you can eat, and that's time. That's pastime right there for the American public to say, wait a minute, if I want a 32-ounce soda, I'll buy one, or I'll buy 3 of them to be equivalent of that value. You, the government, are not going to tell me. I'll grow a garden. I'll share it with my neighbors. I will go to a farmer's market. I'll have an ice cream social. I'm not going to be regulated by a bunch of bureaucrats that don't know come here from Sikkim.
Exactly. And, for these bureaucrats, I think that it's time that they get out of government, and to whoever keeps on voting them in, shame on you.
Amen.
I'm going to revoke your voter card. You can't vote anymore.
Good morning, caller. You are on the air.
Yes, I was taking a ride with my husband Saturday, and we were listening to Sean Hennessy. And an auditor of some sort called in. This is off the subject of food. But he said in the 2012 elections, they cross-referenced, I think it was in Minnesota and Michigan, the voters. And I can't remember for sure if he said there was some 3,500,000 or 5,500,000 voters that had the same last and first name and the same last 4-digit Social Security numbers.
So in other words,
do you think this is coincidence or is it fraud?
Absolutely voter fraud. And I think that we're going to be hearing a lot more about voter fraud as we draw closer to November. Some of the stories that I have right here on my desk about voter fraud going on in California, voter fraud in Wisconsin, voter fraud in the state of Minnesota, especially in Minneapolis, voter fraud in Florida, voter fraud in New York, voter fraud in Vermont. It's running rampant, and the Democrats and the liberal left will do anything they can to perpetrate their cause and basically rig the elections. They do not want to give up any power. They do not want to give up any control. Absolutely, what you're hearing is 100% right. Voter fraud is something that I think should be brought to the forefront much more so than it has. We saw, of course, voter fear in one of the presidential elections just recently with, of course, the Black Panthers standing outside with billy clubs. We are watching our elective process in this country go down the drain as far as the freedoms that it possesses and about our freedom of choice. And these people, these thugs and these bureaucrats should be thrown into a chaotic sewer where they belong.
Well, I agree. If that's what's going on, is the only way we can prevent it is to show picture ID when we vote? Would that be one way of controlling it?
It's not only that, but it's we've got to demand better of our elected officials. I absolutely see nothing wrong with identifying myself when I go to vote. I'm proud of who I am, and I'm proud of my vote. And for the Democrats to sit there and say that absolutely is, it's not right to ask somebody, it's improper, it's an imposition. No, that's just a way for them to create voter fraud and have the same lady in a precinct vote 27 times. I am fed up with the voter fraud. I'm fed up with the liberalism in this country, and especially the Democrats trying to buy their elections.
I agree.
God bless you for your call. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
She brought up an excellent point, voter fraud running rampant, and there's so many stories coming out about that. I think that when you go in, you should sign on the dotted line, show who you are, and if you're not who you are, adios amigo, out the door, you're not going to vote in this election. There is nothing wrong with proving who you are. And this garbage that I heard Dick Durbin and Schumer and some of these other Democrats say, well, it's such an imposition for people to go get identification. You need identification for everything in life. You want to get on an airplane, try to do it without an ID. You want to go cash a check, try to do it without an ID. And don't let the doggone Democrats tell you that it's imposition. Let's ride. Boy, I gotta calm down. Let's ride where the fun is sold. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Oh, they're closed on Mondays, but they're open Tuesday through Saturdays 9 to 6. And I'll tell you what, they've got everything over there, all the ATVs. Look at the weather outside today. And then think about tomorrow running over to Let's Ride and satisfy your whims as far as wanting to have some fun. You deserve to have some fun. And they've got all the different ATVs, all the different styles, all the different colors, all the accessories. They've got everything. And something else to consider, too. They've got the watercrafts. Pretty soon we're going to be on the water, and you better be ready. Let's ride where the fun is sold. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, open Tuesday through Saturday, 9 to 6. I really get emotional about this. We've got a problem in this country, and honest, I just don't understand why. Why we're letting voter fraud. Why we would let somebody with the Black Panthers stand outside with the Billy Club and threaten menacingly to other voters, well, you better vote our way or else. They should have taken that Billy Club and... Well, we won't go there. But anyhow, we've got a mess in this country that I hope gets cleaned up. And get out and vote. I don't care if it's the May primaries. I don't care if it's November in 14. I don't care if it's in 2 years, in 16 for the next president. We've got to get out and exercise our opinion. Don't you dare tell me it doesn't matter. It does. It does. Coming up next hour, we're going to be talking to Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, and we're going to basically talk about some of the things that did and didn't occur during the legislative session. And then at 10:30, we're going to talk to Joel Packham at the Cassia County Extension Office. Boy, with the nice weather, and the kids are almost out of school, and, of course, the 4-H and the FFA and all their projects and everything, we got a lot of things to put out in front of the public, so you stay tuned for that. We got a lot of things cooking. I'll be back in 6. Don't you go away. Oh, wow. Listen to that old piano in the background. Good morning, hour number 3, Zeb at the Ranch, and I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today, 734-6969. Hey, by the way, you getting a little hungry right now, Bunky? Well, I'll tell you where to go for lunch. Chadwick Sports Grill. Great food. 139 West Main in Burley. Nice people. Love the environment in there with all the sports paraphernalia and everything. And today, spaghetti carbonara. Now, Gina probably knows what carbonara is. I don't. Somebody help me. Spaghetti
carbonara.
Carbonara?
Carbonara.
I was close.
Yeah, you were.
I used the same alphabet. And it's with garlic toast and super salad. Please share with me quickly in 10 seconds or less, what is spaghetti carbonara?
Carbonara is more like gosh, now I can't even think of the word. It's less spicy spaghetti sauce.
Oh, sounds good. At the
it's
Chadwick.
More fresh.
I love it then. It's Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Spaghetti carbonara. Love it today. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, right now we're going to get serious and talk to the Speaker of the House, Representative Scott Bedke's on the line. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, Zeb. How are you doing?
Kind of a hard act to follow, some spaghetti carbonara, isn't it?
Carbonara. Spaghetti alla carbonara has got bacon in it, and it's kind of a cream sauce with, cream and beat eggs and a lot of Parmesan cheese. It's really quite good.
Holy smokes, now you're turning into the kind of the a la carte menu here this morning. Thank you.
Once upon a time, I spent 2 years in Italy, and so I know what spaghetti alla carbonara is.
And my roommate in college was Italian. You know what pasta bazool is, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's a bean, some kind of a bean dish, I think, isn't it?
It's bean soup.
Yeah, that's it. Well, we're going to go from bean soup to the legislative session that just ended. And, Scott, before I ask you particular questions about the session, what was approached and what wasn't approached, what was your overall take on the 2014 legislative session?
Well, 2 things. Number one, we came back as a legislative body, both the House and the Senate, and we came together and implemented the first stage of the governor's task force on education. And bottom line, we increased the money coming back into the public school system in the state by a little over 5%. and that translates into more operational money for the school districts. There have been there were issues that the operational monies had not been completely restored since the recession. And so we took a huge step in that direction. We didn't get it completely restored, but we took a big chunk out of it. We gave the teachers and all of the folks that work for school districts a 1% pay raise, plus to the teachers another the equivalent of about another little over 1% of leadership awards as per the recommendations from the governor's task force. Again, the governor's task force is made up of all the stakeholders and the teachers, the administrators, etc., from around the state. So we took a big step in that direction. More importantly, and maybe, not more important, but another important thing is that because it was an issue, particularly in our area, and made it into the paper several times, was we don't have money for textbooks. There was $5 million set aside statewide to come to the school districts to for content or curriculum, and that leaves the local school districts with the discretion to buy content. If they'd rather have it in digital form, they can. If it's traditional textbooks, they can do that as well. And so that's number one, is we took a big step in the direction of implementing the governor's task force on education. Second, I think for our area, is that we did in an unprecedented way, we funded aquifer recharge. And, many of us have been sick and tired through the years of seeing water going down past Milner during the spring. That water is unappropriated. It's the spring runoff, and we don't have capacity to store that water in the surface, in the reservoir system from here on up the country. And so this is money that we will use to divert that unappropriated water, and most of the time it'll be in the spring of the year, back over into the aquifer to address the aquifer depletions, so that we won't have. It's certainly our hope that over time that we can address these water calls, and that we won't have the farmers in the area won't have the specter hanging over their head of a curtailment. And so I think that those are two of the biggest things that we did this year. Certainly there are some other things that we did, but I think directly for our area and briefly, those are two major things that we did this year.
All right, now, Scott, I want you to also expand a little bit. Now, the problem with Rangans and the irrigators, how is this going to be addressed, and will there be meetings going on starting this summer, going into the winter, hopefully by next spring, to get this problem solved?
Well, those meetings are happening probably as we speak, frankly. The Rangan fish farm has senior water rights to many of the underground water rights up on the north side of the river, and a few on the south side. And so they put a water call out, and they were about 9 CFS short, so about 500, between 450 and 500 inches of water short there each year, and their water rights were senior to many of the other groundwater rights. Okay, so they put in a call on that water, and but if their rights, if they weren't delivered that 9 CFS over time, then that would force the idling of about 157,000 acres of irrigated farm ground here in the area. Of course, that's a huge amount of land to go out of production. That's a huge economic hit, not only to the owners of the land, but to our economy. So the groundwater users have come up with a mitigation plan to get Rangan their water. Now, and these plans are being presented to the Department of Water Resources, and if the Department of Water Resources signs off on them, then then they will, then there won't be any curtailment, and that's where we're at right now. It doesn't look like there'll be any curtailment. But that ties back into this the steps the legislature took this session is to allocate money and dedicate money into building the infrastructure to recharge the aquifer, so that as they're providing mitigation water to Rangan, at the same time, going into the future, we'll be raising the water table within the whole Eastern Snake Plain aquifer. That's our goal.
Scott, I want to talk about something that was in the newspaper in the form of a letter to the editor from a Bob Neugebauer of Meridian, and there's also been some other criticism locally against you as Speaker of the House regarding the grocery tax bill. Now, I want to tell you before I have you respond to this that I did a little research on the grocery tax bill and what it did do and what it didn't do, and some of the people made allegations like this. Neugebauer in his letter said, quote, "Your children have less food on the table so that Speaker Bedke could stop the governor's opponent from getting and gaining recognition." First of all, take on that allegation and then talk a little bit about the grocery bill, because quite frankly, after reading it, I'm on your side with why you stood where you did.
All right. Well, let's go back in history a little bit here. Now, obviously, the governor is being challenged by Senator Fulcher, and in 2008, in the 2008 legislative session, Senator Fulcher was the floor sponsor on the Senate side of this program that all Idahoans participate in, called grocery tax credit, and that was and the thought is that yes, putting a sales tax on food is that's a staple of life, and arguably it's something that we shouldn't tax. But in Idaho, we have a large underground economy, and there's a lot of folks that the taxes that they pay on food are the only taxes that they pay at all, period. And so how to set up a program that offsets the sales tax that we pay on food, and at the same time give some relief back to Idahoans when it comes to their the sales taxes that they pay for food. Okay, so we set up a program beginning in the 2008 session that we would work up to, and this year, when you pay your taxes, if you are in the lower income brackets, you will have $120 per person of grocery tax credit. And if you're a senior citizen, you will have $120 worth of grocery tax credit, and everybody in the middle will have $80 of grocery tax credit. So let's put that into perspective. So if you're a senior citizen and you live at home with your spouse, then you would have on your Idaho state income tax a credit of $4,000. Of $120 per person, or $240, which would in turn shield the purchases, the sales tax on food of $4,000.
Right.
That translates to the removal of the sales tax on $335 per month for a senior citizen couple in Idaho. If you're a younger family, and let's say that you have mom and dad and two kids at home, then that's the equivalent of shielding the sales tax on food for $445 per month worth of food purchases. So this was, that was the program that we entered into back in 2008, and that over time we would build out the lower income people in the state would get $120 worth of grocery tax credit. The senior citizens would get $120 worth of grocery tax credit. Everybody in the middle would get $100 of grocery tax credit. So we still have 2 more years until this builds out, but this year the lower income get $120, the seniors get 120, and the ones in the middle get 80, and that shields or protects food purchases up to those amounts that I just described.
What about?
Okay, so now that total program costs the state of Idaho about $125 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the amount of money that the state foregoes because of the refunds or the monies that we send back in the form of the grocery tax credit.
Right.
The total amount of money that the state collects on the sales tax on food is about, I want to say $175 million. So there's about, well, it's even more than that. There's about a $65 million gap here. So we collect about $195 million of taxes, sales taxes on food purchases, and 130 million of that is shielded or protected, if you will, by the grocery tax credit program. Because this is an election year, Senator Fulcher brought a bill that would remove the sales tax on all food purchases. And so the fiscal impact of that to the state was this $195 million that I just described. So there's a gap there of about $65 million that we would have had to taken out of, well, public school budgets that we just described, this water thing, all these other things. We've built the general fund assumes that there will be a sales tax collected on food, and part of it is given back in this grocery tax credit program. So the allegations that that Bedke was playing politics or whatnot are absolutely not true. If there were any politics being played, it was on the other side of the table, frankly. And yeah, it sounds good to remove the sales tax on food, but again, coming back to reality, that's the only taxes that a lot of people pay, and it's thought that here in Idaho, if you file your income taxes, you get, in fact, your money back, or a lot of the money back, or most of the money back that you paid for sales tax on food. But if you don't file, you don't get it, and that anyway, that's and we have a large amount of out-of-state purchases. I mean, we have a large tourist industry here in the state. All of the out-of-staters, when they buy food, I mean, they pay sales tax, and that all adds up. This year, it would all adds up to about $65 million. So anyway, that's kind of a rough overview. Maybe I didn't explain it very well, so ask me some questions.
No, I thought it was an excellent explanation, but the bottom line is it's an equitable, fair tax to the point where, you just said it very succinctly, people that are getting basically, and I don't mean to sound like I'm derogatory, but the ones that aren't paying taxes, they're getting pretty much of a free ride. At least we're getting some money back to the state coffers, and I think it's a good bill, and quite frankly, I think it should have stayed in effect, and that's why I'm glad it worked out the way it did. So I commend you on that. And I think there's a lot of confusion, especially from this Bob Neugebauer and others, saying that you were playing politics with this thing, when in essence we were getting money from the populace that we wouldn't have had for the education budgets and others without that tax. And I think that's a good summation.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the irony of this whole thing is that Senator Fulcher carried this bill.
Okay.
And now is advocating the removal of the grocery tax credit system, and blaming me for blocking that bill that would have left a hole in your budget of $65 million.
All right,
So politics were being played. It wasn't by me.
All right, we have a caller with a question, and I'm down to about 4 minutes left. Good morning, caller. Go ahead.
I'll make it quick. What about those of us who are retired and don't file income taxes? Did we get left out? That's my question. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Scott, go ahead, please.
Well, if I can't imagine a scenario where you wouldn't file. But yeah, that's one of the things on this grocery tax credit. There's a lot of people there is no tax due, and the state cuts them a check for, if the gentleman lives at home with his with his spouse, and they're both seniors, then and there was no other tax due, that if they file or if they request, then there would be a $240 check coming from the state of Idaho back to them. So no, the caller does not get left out.
Real quick, there was another issue that made me mad every time I heard that they were in the offices and blocking the entranceways, etc., and that's the Gay and Lesbian and Transgender Alliance. With the pushing and demanding of add the words, they feel like they're being discriminated against. And I'm just going to say this, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we already have anti-discrimination laws in effect in every aspect of our lives, whether it's real estate, whether it's insurance, whether it's housing, whatever it is. And I'm sick and tired of these groups always asking for something special for their own cause. Your thoughts quickly. I've got 2 minutes left.
Well, this year is the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That stated clearly that there would be no discrimination in any of the areas that you just described with regard to race, gender, nationality, age, disability, within certain parameters, etc. The LGBT community would like to add to the Human Rights Act in the state of Idaho the sexual identity and gender orientation and sexual orientation, those 4 words, to create and expand that class that we just described, that were created nationally and in many and all of the states since 1964. The majority of the legislature, at least as presently constituted, thinks that that's a bad idea, and to create a new class of citizen and that carves out special privileges. Now, at the same time, the Idahoans and the legislators are these are very tolerant people. These are very fair-minded people. These are ones that would subscribe to live and let live. But I think that at this point they have drawn the line at creating another special and protected class. And that's where we left it.
Scott, real quick, and again, I'm almost out of time, but issues that are carryovers into 2015 that you're really concerned about. What's the number one thing that you're going to be thinking about going into next fall and winter for the legislative session?
Well, I think that we'll come back to this education thing. We'll have another round of task force recommendations to implement. So that'll be number one. I think number two, I want to see how this water thing works out, and we'll need to make some course corrections along the way so that we do, in fact, move the needle when it comes to correcting the water budget. Number three, I think that the state needs to take some additional steps in making Idaho more attractive to outside businesses, and our income tax rates at 7.4 for individuals and 7.4 for companies sticks out like a sore thumb when compared to the other states around us. Utah's at 5%, and so we spot them 2.5% of income tax rates when a business is looking at the two states. We spot Utah 2.5% on that rate, and I think that we should work on ways to bringing that down.
All right. Speaker of the House and Representative Scott Bedke, thank you so much for being on the program this morning. Anytime, all the time, you're welcome on the show to give us an explanation as to what's happening in Idaho politics. Thank you again for your time this morning.
Well, you're welcome, and we can talk about spaghetti recipes.
Basta Bazool! Thank you, Scott. Take care. Thank you so much.
All right. See you, Zeb.
You betcha. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget on Thursdays on the show, we have a special segment for Cassia County School Days, and we are blessed because we have two businesses that really jumped in and wanted to support the Cassia County school system, and I thank them. First of all, A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. And don't forget, it's spring. The weather's going to be great this week, and you feel like getting out and shopping. They've got all the spring dresses. I understand they got over 300 of them there, and all the different patterns and designs, and believe me, if you mention that you heard it on my program, get an extra 10% off. And they got the boys' suits, and they've got everything for the family. Games, it's really a family store. A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And then also Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. My goodness, yes, life-saving colonoscopies and, of course, hand surgeries. And they do well over 100 surgeries there every month, saving area residents thousands of dollars. Believe me, I thank again the Ambulatory Surgery Center, and that's, of course, at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley, and A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley for bringing you school days in Cassia County. We're going to take a little break and come back, and then we're going to have Joel Packham with the Cassia County Extension Service on our program, and you just enjoy a beautiful Monday. Look at that sky outside. Blue skies, sunshine. Can't wait to get outside. I'll see you in 3.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, good morning, and I really mean that good morning. I've got spring fever really bad today, man, with these warmer temperatures and the blue skies and the sunshine. Oh, my. Tough to stay indoors. Good morning to Joel Packham. I believe he's on the air from the Cassia County Extension Service. How are you, sir?
I'm alive. How are you this morning?
Well, I wouldn't want to be talking to anybody any different, I'll tell you that, if you're not alive. Joel, this time of the year, as we really get a taste of spring starting this week, with warmer temperatures, tomorrow it might even make records up over 76, 77 degrees. You know, I would imagine that your job probably takes on a lot more that you have to provide to the public. What basically are you involved in right now?
Well, of course, we're doing a lot with 4-H animals right now also. And,
really?
And just trying to get all the hogs weighed in, and then we're going to, obviously, the grains are already planted, I think. They're probably going to start planting sugar beets and potatoes this week. I mean, I think some have already been planted, but I think the majority of them are probably going to go in this week and next. So things are really busy for the farmers. I don't know that they necessarily... You know, they have their consultants who have them pretty well lined out, and I think they're pretty well on board to get done what they need to get done.
You know, Joel, you and I, you've been on this program, and you've been very gracious to come on this show and give us information about various things. But I think one of the subjects that really bothers me this morning, in the first hour, I said a lot of our rules and regulations have run rampant over the American citizenry, and much of which are affecting agricultural food and programs. And when you talk about animals, these kids putting and devoting their time and efforts into raising a good big pig for their project, or maybe a 4-H steer, or maybe a dairy heifer, or maybe they're involved in the 4-H horse project, whatever. These kids really know animal husbandry. They really know how to take care of animals. And then you have these offshoot groups that want to come in and they want to dictate what you do, what you can't do with animals. Where's your stand on this? How do you protect these kids and their projects from all these weird, absolutely insane organizations?
I'm not sure there's any protection from the weird organizations, unfortunately, Zeb. I think we just need to be as common sense as we possibly can be. You know, these parents and these youth have been working and doing these projects for many years, and you know, we're kind of being forced to use the helmet rule in our horse 4-H this year. It's optional this year, and next year they'll have to wear them for sure. And you know, insurance companies get involved, and there's no question that, you know, there's some risk there. There's no doubt about that. And so I can understand the insurance companies doing it, but I also can understand parents not wanting to conform to those kinds of rules. So I wish there was an easy way to say that we're not going to be affected by these people, but I don't think there is a way. I don't see a way that we can get away from it. The people in sitting at desks make a lot of decisions for the working people of this world, this country, and I don't think they usually have an idea of what they're even doing at all that affects these people and their livelihoods.
I mean, Joel, you're a farm boy. Where were you born and raised? It was over in far eastern Idaho, wasn't it?
Camas County, actually.
Okay, Camas County, I'm sorry. But, you've seen the changes, and you've seen government controls come into our lives, whether we can put salt on a prime rib, or whether we can buy certain groceries, or whether we can grow a garden and share it with our neighbors, or maybe go to a farmer's market. We've got to put the brakes on this right now, Joel, and we've got to start showing some force back to the regulatory bureaucrats, because I don't think, and I'm going to say this and you can argue with me, but I don't think that American agriculture is appreciated or respected by Congress, and I think they're going to do everything they can to basically ban or diminish the value of our farmers and ranchers. Maybe you don't agree, but I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Well, I do think that our legislators and congressmen, I think they value agriculture. I don't see how they can't. I mean, we do feed a large majority of the world, and especially this country, for sure. And however, I was just reading in the Capitol Press about an article where in California, well, it wasn't just in California, but they're taking the spent grains from breweries, especially beer outlets, where they ferment the grain and use it to make the beer out of, that they won't let those grains be used for animal feed, which I just absolutely don't understand. And because they're not going to meet the standards of the clean food and clean water that they're saying that needs to go into animals. I just don't. That's exactly what you're talking about. We're getting into more regulation that's going to stop a very logical use of these spent grains. And who's going to handle? How are we going to get rid of all of these spent grains that are going to be, all over this country if we can't feed them to animals and use them in a better way? I mean, I think they would have to cook them in order to make them supposedly, quote unquote, clean enough or sanitary enough to feed to the animals. I think we've gone way overboard there. I mean, they're just nuts about wanting to do that, and I just don't understand the logic of what we're going to do with those spent grains. I mean, the tons and tons of feed that comes out of there that's excellent for animal use, they're saying that we can't use. This doesn't make a bit of sense at all.
Well, I think one thing, Joel, pardon me, is that you know as well as I do that with the bulk of the power coming from the eastern states, and you take the Chuck Schumers and you take the Dick Durbins and people like that are so far removed from any knowledge at all or education about agriculture and passing stupid, frivolous laws that are absolutely incomprehensible to understand why. This is what makes me afraid that there's no respect for American agriculture, just like what you're talking about with the brewer's grains, etc. That would be an excellent animal feed. It has been an excellent animal feed, but I mean, they're trying to pass legislation that people can't grow gardens, they can't deliver some of the produce to their neighbors without having special permits. We've got to put a stop on this because agriculture is underneath the thumb of big government right now, and I think it's going to affect everything. Your fairs, your 4-H, your FFA, we've got to stop this.
Well, and I guess I'm hoping, we just got a new farm bill, and the new farm bill seems to be relatively favorable to farming. At least while it's really quite different, it still seems to be quite favorable to the average farmer. And I'm hoping that as the procedures are written, that we will have hopefully a document that we can actually use. I mean, that's what we're hoping for as we wait for these procedures to get written. I mean, the laws are one thing, but until these procedures are written, we don't really know very much about how that law is going to be enacted. And so I'm hoping that these procedures can be more logical than what has happened in the past. And again, it appears to me that it's going to be a fairly decent farm bill, but you're right. I guess we've got to put people into office that are definitely concerned and have a passion for agriculture. We have to do that within this country. I mean, we have the strongest agriculture in any country in the world you would think that we could continue to do that and continue to make that happen.
And you know, Joel, I got to speak up for the kids that grow up on farms and ranches. And I want you to really delve into this because you see it every single day. These kids have got a purpose. These kids know how to work. These kids know how to be diligent. They know how to set priorities. They know how to care for something other than themselves. And these kids really grow up with, I think, a great work ethic, and I don't want to see these projects diminished.
Well, that's absolutely true. And as we hire people in other walks of life, you don't, talk to somebody about when they get a farm kid from Idaho that they can hire, because I know how these people talk about these kids, and they are absolutely incredible, and they go right to work, and they find out how to do something, and they can get it done. They don't have to be babied. They don't have to have somebody looking over their shoulder. They can just go right to work. And all you need to do is when you talk to companies and you say, boy, if we just got a farm kid out of Idaho, we know what we got, and we know what we can get done. And I don't think, and I'm sure that's not just Idaho, but that's what I hear. Of course, I'm kind of partial to Idaho, but I think any farm kid, just like you said, it's just so important that those kids have that basic knowledge and that they're willing to work. And that's the thing that we miss in other children. They aren't always as willing to do all the work that needs to be done. And these kids that come off of these farms, they have a will to do that work, and by dang, they know how to do it. They just go to work and get it done. And it's impressive. It's impressive to work with these youth that are like that and want to be that way.
What do you think, and I'm not trying to paint you in any corners on this, Joel, but it's something that needs to be discussed. What do you think about some of these lobbyists and some of these bills and some of these congressmen and senators that, again, don't understand agriculture, and they're trying to pass bills and laws that would limit and prohibit and stop children from doing any chores on the farm, driving any machinery, or handling any livestock? I mean, we've got bills out there that scare me that would stop people from showing a horse or showing a steer, doing anything in agriculture. And honest to goodness, I'm scared to death that's going to happen.
Well, I think we do have a problem there. There was just a big article last week about the little girl, I think in Nebraska or someplace, that fell out of a combine and she was killed. We know that there's risks in this work. These families know that there's risks. And I guess I'm a little bit concerned that there's everybody worried about our risk, and we are worried about our risks too, but we are willing to take those risks on and work with them. Other people want to control our risk. And I don't understand that. These people drive down, they let their kids do things that I think are way more risky than being out as they go into the cities and do all the things that they do there. There's got to be more risk involved there than there is in driving a farm implement or working with these farm animals when these kids actually learn how to do it, know what they're doing. And granted, we know that there's risks, and they take those risks, and we accept them. I wish the rest of the world would just accept them and not worry about it.
You know, Joel, your point is so well said and stated because, life is a risk. Nobody promised you a paved highway on a golden road all the way from birth all the way till death. And taking these risks and learning and really enjoying and squeezing life, every drop out of life, whether it's in agriculture or whatever it is your chosen endeavor. But to sit back and live in a bubble, we can't have anyone learn anything or appreciate a work ethic when they absolutely are stopped from doing anything to learn a trade.
Yeah, and that's exactly the problem that we're in. We won't let kids even work until they're basically out of high school, at least 16. Well, by then, if you haven't taught them to work before they're 16, you're really behind the 8 ball, and I don't know that you can really, it's very difficult to teach them once all that time is taken. I mean, these young youth, they are extremely good workers, and they learn to be good workers, and we know there's risk when you have work. But again, those risks are something that we all in the agricultural community accept, and we frankly buy into that risk and try to use it to help teach these kids a better way of life and better ways of doing things rather than just sitting in front of a television and not doing anything, or sitting in front of their iPad, iPod, or any kind of pod that you want to consider. They just need to be able to work, and we've got to allow them to do it, because that's what teaches people how to work. Is that time when they're youth.
I think that you will also concur that the county fair is a glaring example of work ethic. I mean, all they have to do is go to a county fair and watch these kids take care of those animals, watch these kids clean the stalls, watch these kids wash and groom the animals for showing, watch these kids really take pride in what they're doing, and that word pride carries on into their occupations later on in life.
Absolutely, and it isn't just the animals. I mean, we have sewing projects, we have home ec projects, we have all kinds of different projects that these children can do. Rocketry, gosh, I can't. It never comes when you want it to. But all the things that these 4-Hers can be involved in, cooking projects. There's hundreds of different projects that they get involved in, and to think that they have to do those on a time, that they have to get them done at a specific time in a specific place. They have to demonstrate them. They have to show them. They actually have to give a live demonstration in front of people that teaches them how to talk and how to make decisions and how to do those things. It is glaring in today's world that these children are able to do that, and they want to do that, and their parents support them to do that, and that we have a society that really tries to build that in this community. And it's so exciting to be a part of it, because you're a part of a community that is really involved with with trying to develop youth and make them really good citizens from day one.
I really appreciate the passion in your voice when you talk about this, because it'd be so easy for somebody to sit back and say, yeah, Zeb, you're right, and then leave it up to me to finish the rest of the story. But the passion in your voice, I can tell that you really are a firm believer in the program. And I would imagine that you've probably got a lot of success stories for people and kids that got involved. Maybe they were city kids, and maybe they got involved in 4-H, and it just opened up their eyes to other opportunities and also a big work ethic. Do you have any stories that might come to mind?
Well, I really do, actually. My wife, when we were in Bear Lake, she taught a crocheting class. And she had 4 girls in that crocheting club. Now, one of them was my daughter. Well, one of them was my daughter, and there were 3 other girls in that club. And they have taken this crochet thing to an extreme. And they made different things, and I know one of those girls had a 6-figure income 2 years ago.
Oh, my.
Because of the crocheting that they did and selling things on the internet, and all those girls have supported their families for several years as their husbands have gone to school, and as they have started out with new families, they have supported their families with crochet things that sell, again, on internet marketing. And these kids, what would they have done without that?
Absolutely.
It's just an amazing story when you consider all that they learned, and that they were just willing to go out and make things and do things. And I have some great examples of that, actually.
It's exciting. It really is exciting to listen to you as a county extension official and give us stories, and the kids that are involved in the FFA and the 4-H. I'm telling you, I was so proud over the many years that I was invited to speak at your state convention, etc. I mean, these kids are sharp, wearing that white shirt, that tie, and that FFA jacket, standing tall and proud. And boy, I mean, you talk about kids with great leadership qualities. There is nothing wrong with those organizations. I'd take any one of those country kids over anybody else because of their attitude.
Well, and that's where we really shine. I mean, and I don't mean to bring up religion, but these missionaries, that leave from here, that are coming from farms. You know what they do when they go out there? They actually go to work, Zeb. They don't have to be taught. They don't have to be forced to do the work. They want to get out, and they get up early, and they go to work. That's just is an amazing thing. And I know that that's because of the work ethic that they learn and that they're able to do. And certainly, we in the 4-H program, we love the FFA program. The FFA just got brand new funding from the state to do more things in the FFA program in the high schools, for which we are greatly excited. because we hope to prepare kids to be able to get into FFA and do a wonderful job from then on.
Joel, and let me ask you one last question here. If anybody's listening in the audience and the parents or something are looking for an entity that they want to get their kids involved, is it too late to join for this year? I mean, tell us the parameters.
No, it's not too late to join. Of course, 4-H, you can join up. I think our last date that we really try to get kids signed up for is around the 9th or 10th of May. I think we try to get every kid involved by that point. Now, we still have animal weigh-ins after that, but we have them signed up for their sheep clubs and turkeys and rabbits before then. So by the 10th of May, we should have everybody signed up and ready to go, so there is time to get involved with that. And even all the other projects, again, we try to have everybody signed up by the 10th of May.
All right.
And so people who want to get involved just need to give us a call.
All right, we've got a caller with a question. Real fast caller. I've only got 2 minutes left. Go ahead.
Good morning. Good program. I'm curious as to how this might partner with Common Core. And I'll listen to you.
All right, and Joel, go ahead and answer that if you would, please.
Well, my wife is involved with the teaching. I also have a son-in-law that teaches at Kimberly High School. And, they're not upset with the Common Core because they're teachers who are willing to change and who are willing to find new ways to teach kids. And I think there's got to be more than one way to teach a child. And so I think the Common Core is not all bad. I think if it's not implemented correctly, then it can be used as a billy club, and I don't think that's what it was set up to do. But we have teachers using it that way.
I want to add something to this a little bit, Joel, and then I got to run. I'm running really late. But here we're talking about a society where last week some members in Congress on the left, the liberal left, want to shorten the work week down to about a 30-hour full-time job week and put the rest of it on dependency on the government. Here we have people involved in agriculture, 30-hour work week. Are you kidding me? They're going 12, 16 hours a day. But these kids are hitting the world face up, and they're saying, come on, I want to be a success. You should be extremely proud of what you represent and what you do through the county extension office.
Well, I really am, and I think the 30-hour week will be the ruination of this country.
Absolutely. Boy, come back, Joel. I've enjoyed having you on, and you saved my bacon, and I owe you big time. Thank you so much.
Anytime, Zeb. See ya.
No, you bet. Joel Packham, County Extension Agent. I really appreciate his being on the program. Oh, we've got to have a weather update real fast, brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. They've got a tax return meat bundle. What's a tax return meat bundle? 75 pounds of beef, pork, and chicken for only $250. Cut the way you like it by the experts at Scarrows Meats. They offer quality products at very reasonable rates, selling taste one bite at a time. Here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Son of a brand spanking new week of you, me, and weather. It's going to be absolutely, mostly sunny. 66 for the high. It gets better tomorrow. We're going to break a record tomorrow. 76 for the high tomorrow. Clear tonight, and got a nice cool evening to kind of go out for a walk and just enjoy each other. Just go out for a walk and just kind of kick back and enjoy springtime in the Magic Valley of South Central Idaho. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. As always, Michael Rogers Weather, brought to you by this hour, Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. I tell you what, I know the Scarrows. I know the job they do. They are the best. Locally owned custom meat processor serving all of Southern Idaho for over 20 years, selling taste one bite at a time. Scarrows Meats. Oh, my goodness sakes, and don't forget the great big tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Our major sponsors, all 7 locations serving you. They've got the Ultra Z900 Touring Tire on sale, over 20% more tread life, outstanding wet and dry traction, quieter riding tire, on sale. Also, for your light pickup trucks, they've got the Open Country AT2 on sale, 40% more tread life, and, of course, enhanced traction. Yup, they've got all the tires you need right there. And boy, the best in brake service and, of course, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, custom wheels. What are you waiting for? Stop in and see some really nice people. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, Twist Family and Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. The best. Thank you. Let's see, what have we got cooking for tomorrow? Open forum in the first hour, naturally, where we encourage your phone calls, and you can gripe and moan and groan about anything, and I'd welcome you to do it that first hour. And second hour tomorrow, we're going to be talking a little bit about the incompetency and idiocy of wind farms and wind energy. Then we're going to have, I believe, Representative Fred Wood's going to be on the program, and we're looking forward to him along with Dr. History. And then we're going to, at 10:30, talk about how tough it is today, more so than at times in the past, to be an athletic coach. Whether it's with the high schools, the college, or the pros, they are really under the microscope more so than ever. And we're going to have Randy Spaeth from over to Ranch River on the program talking about that tomorrow. Should be interesting. And, of course, running the board and handling everything, Gina Jameson. Gina, thank you. I'll bet you can't wait to get outside.
Oh, it's so gorgeous outside. I'm just chomping at the bit. So already got my projects planned for when I get off work.
You know our little sun deck out on the side of the house?
Uh-huh.
In exactly 45 seconds, you will find my fat body out there.
And you're going to be sunbathing, at least sunbathing.
Like a beached whale. Here comes Zebber. I hope you have a great day, everybody. Tune in tomorrow morning at 8:06. Zeb at the Ranch, the way things were, the way things ought to be. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow morning.